Welcome back to Next Level You podcast. I have Jessica Rachel here, you guys. Full transparency. Jessica Rachel is an expander in my life. When I rebranded my podcast back in January, I made an expander list of just true expanders that I would love to just someday bring on the podcast if I could manifest it or convince them. And Jessica Rachel is one of them. And she's here with me today live from Canada, right?
Yeah, from just
Yeah.
outside of Toronto. Oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
feel so honored. I did not
Oh
know
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. I'm blushing over here.
I literally like when I was getting ready for this, I was like, "Oh my God, I feel like my next level self today." Like, oh, feels so good. Yeah, and I intentionally wore my mermaid shirt because okay, so let me back up. You guys, Jessica Rachel is I correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica, but intuitive, spiritual healer,
I feel
right?
like they're all synonymous. Psychic
Yeah.
medium, spiritual
Psychic medium.
medium,
Yeah.
intuitive, whatever. Like, call me a psychic. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I met Jessica. Well, okay, I didn't meet her. Initially, I heard of Jessica because my business coach, Julia Martin, had her in I don't know, like three or four of her podcast episodes. And I was like, who is this woman? Oh my God. First, it was just your voice that I was like, oh my God, I love her voice. Like I could listen to her all day. And then I started following you on Instagram. And then I signed up for Dream Your Biz. And part of that program, I got to do my own session with Jessica, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. But more than anything, I wanted to bring her on the podcast because you know me, I'm all about building a soul aligned life and business. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if it weren't for the role that Jessica played in my own journey. And so when I think about talking to you listeners about building a soul aligned business in life, I do naturally think about using those spiritual gifts that we have, that others have in our circle, and using those gifts to help us, to grow us, to catapult us, to make sure we're on an aligned path. That was monumental in my own journey. And so, yeah, I met Jessica. I did a session with her. And honestly, I've been following her ever since because she's a vibe. Okay. Jessica, why don't you just introduce yourself and I'll stop talking?
Gosh, you're so sweet. I'm like over here blushing.
You should feel
Very,
good.
very sweet. Yeah, I mean, so hi guys, I'm Jessica. My spirit name, I guess, or the name I use in my business is Jessica Rachel, mostly because my married last name is so unpronounceable, which is Shach. So yeah, nobody can say it, so it's all good. And yeah, I'm a spiritual medium or psychic medium, whatever you want to call it. I'm also a mom of two boys. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I split my time between doing this beautiful work. I absolutely love channeling for people, but the thing that really kind of gets me up in the morning is really teaching people how to connect to their intuition. I'm really not someone who's super special and was able to do this. I wasn't born with this, or actually I was, because we all were, but I
We
just
all are.
wasn't born
Yeah.
knowing about this.
Yep.
And I really truly believe that if I was able to develop my intuitive abilities, then you can too. And that's really what I preach. And so I split my time between doing this beautiful work and running around with my 2 little boys and homeschooling them and being a wife and mom.
Being a boy mom is just the best. I freaking love it. I mean, Augie is only 2 months, but I'm like so excited about being a boy mom. And just from watching you on Instagram, it seems like you just love it.
I do love it. I didn't expect it. I always thought that I don't know why I always pictured I was going to end up having girls.
Same.
And having boys is such a different animal.
Yeah, I bet.
They're just I laugh at it because and I know yours is so little. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes my husband and I will just sit there, like, on the couch and just watch them, and we just look at each other and laugh because 'cause we're like, "They never stop moving
Yeah.
until the moment they pass out and go to sleep." Like, it's just constant. So, definitely
Yep.
keeps us on our toes for
I
sure.
feel like that's going to be my life because, yeah, sometimes Augie just does not want to sit still. And I'm like, what is going on? And he doesn't stop eating either. So,
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
wild.
It's all yeah.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to explain to you guys. So, I mentioned that I did a session with Jessica. It was actually in October of 24. So, it's been a hot minute. But that was
Mhm.
part of my Dream Your Biz program, business coaching program that I was a part of with Julia Martin. And this 90-minute session that I did with Jessica was life changing. I mean, so many things came out of that session that like Jessica mentioned, like we're all intuitive. We all have these gifts, but we're not always tapping into it. And I think there was a part of me that thought I had these gifts, I had this ability, I knew these things, I had been getting nudges. But then I did this session with Jessica, and it was like it validated these things that I intuitively knew them, but I think I still had so much self doubt that I wasn't yet in a place where I could confidently say, like, yes, this is a direction I need to go. And then I did that session with Jessica, and it was like all of those answers came through from spirit. And it was just so life changing for me. And I can't recommend her services enough because if you are feeling lost, if you are feeling like I'm excited about all these different things and I don't know which one to go after, or you have all these ideas, or maybe you're just like, I know I'm meant to build a business, but I don't know specifically for what, like, sign up for a session with Jessica just to gain that clarity, just to get that validation that you are on the right path. It was just life changing for me. I don't know how else to explain it. So I re-listened to our episode prior to coming on today, and I intentionally wore my mermaid shirt because one of the things that came through in my session with Jessica was that I had this like mermaid energy in a past life, which if you have been a long time listener to the podcast, you know I love the beach, you know I love the water, and you know like I crave depth, which makes sense that I was like this mermaid in a past life. And that was just one of the things that came through. But other things that came through that session were things like I meant to pursue hypnotherapy. I meant to pursue some kind of like sound healing, incorporating sound into the business. It validated that adding coaching was the right thing to do. It validated that the podcast was the right thing to do. It gave me insight on like what to name the podcast, and it gave me insight on branding. Like all of these things came out of this session with Jessica that I had so much confusion over. Like just I was lacking that clarity. And then ironically, I have clarity coaching now to help you get that clarity. But yeah, Jessica, do you want to like talk about, I mean, you have helped so many business owners. I'm one of like probably hundreds, I can imagine. But do you want to talk about like how you see those sessions benefiting business owners from like an insider's perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So it's actually one of my favorite types of sessions that comes through because, people will come to me for all different types of reasons, right? When we tap into your spirit guides, I mean, they're omniscient. We can talk about so many different things, right? If it's any future decision you have to make, we can talk about sort of what that path can look like, right? There's so many things. Some people come for relationship advice and, some people even come for like very unique like business decisions they have to make that are like some people come and are like, I need to make this multi-million dollar like business deal. Like, is it aligned? I'm like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
pressure, right?
Yeah, a
Um,
lot.
so I get tons and tons of different people from different walks of life doing that. And my favorite sessions are definitely the ones where people are kind of very committed to their true, authentic path and purpose in their life, right? Where they're either at a crossroads in their life where they're kind of going, I'm not loving my corporate job. I think I'm here for something more. I think I need to do something else, but I don't know what that is. Right.
Yeah.
And that I love when people come to me at that crossroad because, they're maybe like on the path of like maybe about to quit their job, but don't know what to do. Or maybe they've already, like yourself, maybe started a business, but are just kind of lost at the fork in the road, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
And the thing about these sessions is it's so beautiful because, and especially people such as yourself, they're usually very intuitive, right?
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
very
yeah.
intuitive. And so everything that kind of comes through is most likely a thought you already had for yourself, but you didn't trust yourself. So you brushed it off, right? Or
Mhm.
you had too many ideas and you didn't know which one to pick,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I do like full disclosure, you guys don't give me any of that information ahead of time. Like
No.
nobody tells me
No.
like here are all the options I'm considering. So
Right.
I think that then it acts as such beneficial, like affirming validation and confirmation that these things that you thought of maybe doing, and now somebody who doesn't even know you, has never met you before, is suddenly saying this is what your spirit guide is saying you should do. And you're like, I knew it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Literally.
So that comes through. And the thing that's so amazing about your spirit guides, and I think people sometimes think that talking to a psychic, it's going to be so general and so broad. Maybe like the ones who do it for entertainment purposes, perhaps that can be the way that it shows up. In my experience, when you connect with a spirit guide, they're like, here is your very narrow path that is yours and only yours to. and they will give you very specific, like, you need to start a podcast, you need to start a community, you need to do this, here's the name, here's who you serve, here's your avatar, like, here's, like, they will give you everything, where you can really walk away from a session like that with like your whole business plan and where you're headed for the next few years. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it is. That's literally what I did. Like after our session, I printed off the transcript and then I highlighted anything that was business related. And then I used those highlights to make action steps for moving forward. And it was so helpful. And you're exactly right. Like I didn't mention hypnotherapy to you. I didn't mention that I had been contemplating getting certified in sound healing, but you asked those questions. You were like, have you heard of hypnotherapy? And I'm like, yeah, I've been doing hypnotherapy. Yes, I know it. It's like yeah, you carry that self-doubt or you're maybe not fully trusting your intuition yet. And then you get those nudges, but you're like, I don't know, is this the right thing to do? And then yeah, doing that session, it was like, yes, this is why it kept coming up. This is why it's been on your heart for the last 2 months because it's what you're meant to be doing. And yeah, I will specifically say though, I have a lot of clients in the private practice that suffer from anxiety, and I firmly believe there's a lot of controversy around this, but I firmly believe that anxiety can pop up for some people because they're not living in alignment with their soul's purpose or mission. And so, even just doing a session like this, just to make sure you're on the right path or you're going in the right direction, I firmly believe that could alleviate some anxiety too. Not that you're here to heal anxiety, but it can just naturally be a side effect, I think.
That was my own story.
Okay.
100%. I was
Okay.
riddled with anxiety when I wasn't living
Really?
my purpose. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It was
Yep.
one of the big things that surprisingly just disappeared
Yeah, I believe
when
it.
I
Yep.
stepped into my path and purpose. So 100%, I think you're right. I think that's your body's way of trying to fire the alarm bells and signal the alarm bells like, this doesn't feel right. This isn't good, right?
Yeah,
You're going to feel like you're on fire because you're not doing what you should be doing. And so, yeah, 100% your body's going to speak to you well before your logical mind catches up.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you kind of already went there, but do you want to talk about like what even got you interested in this spiritual business? Like yeah, I agree you were born with it. I think we all are. I don't think it's something like, a higher power is choosing like you get to be a medium and you get to be a medium. Like we don't have like Oprah up in the clouds like making that decision for certain people, right? We all have these abilities. But when you learned about your ability and then decided to start this business, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for highlighting that because I do want to say that I'm really nobody special, okay? Like,
Yeah.
I don't by any stretch of the word think that I was a chosen one or something like that. I really think that your intuition is something we are all born with and potentially get socialized out of because it's not very common knowledge, right? And so things that we attribute to intuition kind of get brushed aside and chalked up to things like dreams or big imagination, right? Things like that. And that was very much the case for me. And yeah, but if you do learn of over time to develop your intuition, you intentionally develop it, your intuition becomes a pathway to psychic abilities if you choose to pursue it, right? And it's a muscle that you strengthen. And, the more you work on it, the more you open yourself up to, and the more you're able to hear, receive, and download. And so I really, really need to really underline that, right? Like I'm really nobody special to the point where, and if I do, like looking back now, when I look at things that have happened in my childhood, like was I seeing spirit guides then? Yeah, I think I was. I definitely have some memories of waking up and seeing things sitting on the end of my bed and
Cool.
being terrified and being told that
Mm-hmm.
was a nightmare, right?
Mm-hmm.
As
Yeah.
most loving parents would tell you,
Yep.
right?
Oh yeah. Yep. I've had those experiences. I agree. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And when you're little, definitely anyone who's 7 and younger, like that's sort of when you really can't kind of make the differentiation between reality and
Yeah.
imagination, right? It all feels real to you. So how do you make that
Yeah.
distinction? And so I definitely had many experiences like that, but of course it scared me. So I
Oh
shut it
yeah.
down or I didn't shut
Yeah.
it down, but I just didn't pursue it. I didn't try to
Right.
continue to go there. And definitely later in life when I did develop my abilities, I was like, "Oh, I remember you. You used to sit at the end of my bed when I was 3."
Cool.
So
Yeah.
that was kinda cool. I'll try to bring this down into a much shorter story, but pretty much before developing my gifts, I was an elementary school teacher. So I taught grade 7 French immersion. You know what? I never imagined doing anything besides being a teacher. It was something I had always wanted to do. I love children. I always wanted to work with them. I love teaching, still do. And really, really never thought I would do anything else. And the thing about getting on your true path and purpose and having spirit guides, which we all have, is that if you start to veer off of your true authentic path and purpose, there's going to be little whispers and little signs that are trying to tell you, like, wake up, move this way, right? And
Yeah.
if you listen to those, then great, you course correct and everything is fine. But if you choose to ignore them, those signals and signs get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the analogy I like to use is, think of like somebody throwing little pebbles at you and you don't listen. So then they throw some rocks at you and then you don't listen. And then they throw a huge boulder at you. Right,
Hmm.
until you're completely knocked out and knocked over, right? So
Yeah.
that was very much the experience I was having. And so I remember being in teachers college, starting to have those feelings, those internal feelings of, something about this doesn't feel right. I'm not sure that this is what I want to do. And I remember even having that conversation with I think he was my boyfriend then, my husband now. I'm not sure if I want to do this. And he was like, just, this is all you ever want to do. Just finish teachers college. Like, just start the job. Like, you can't quit before you even started. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so definitely already had some of those feelings. And then I started teaching, and year after year, there was always something that just made me question, is this what I really want to be doing? And each year it got more and more challenging to want to stay in that role.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so, my first year being with like in a very difficult school district where the parents and children were just like very difficult to deal with. And then, my next year being partnered with a teacher, sharing a classroom with one who just, that felt very challenging and very difficult, to my next year being put in a role, and they change. Teaching, guys, it's not for the faint of heart. I don't know how it is in the States, but over here in Canada, like, of course it's a well-paying job and it's actually highly revered and a hard job to get, and it's great benefits and all of those things. But man, it's rough out
Yeah. I feel that way about just the education arena in general. I was a school social worker for 4 years prior to starting my practice, and I just was like, wow, nobody prepares you for how difficult the education arena is mentally, politically. Like, it is not, you're right, it is not for the faint of heart. So
No, it's
kudos to you.
really not, and
Yeah.
I think just, like, year after year, I was getting more and more stressed out, anxiety ridden with anxiety,
Oh, yeah.
okay? Like,
Yep.
I was getting sick. I think you could have marked it on a calendar every 3 weeks on the dot, getting sick with something. And,
Gross.
I would just attribute that to, well, I'm around kids all day, like, as
Yeah.
expected, right? But
Yeah.
I was so stressed. I wasn't
Oh,
sleeping
yeah.
well, and the scenarios just kept getting worse and worse. And to my very final year as a full-time teacher, I'd been given a role that I really didn't feel prepared for. They made me the special ed teacher for the entire school. So I had like
Yeah.
60 kids on my caseload for I'm not an organized person. Doing all the paperwork for that was definitely
Hmm.
not good for me. They
Right.
had me switching classrooms like every 20 minutes or something. Like, I so stressed,
Yeah.
so tired, miserable, hating life. Okay. And in addition to that, my husband was still in school. He was studying to be a chiropractor, and we were newly married. So I was supporting the two of us.
Yeah.
And so I would work a full day of school and then go home and tutor children from like privately from 4 to 8 p.m. So
Wow.
I was working myself like a workhorse, like, really, really. I was so stressed out. I was so just out of alignment, and doing it because I thought, like, that's what everybody wanted me to do. And definitely those feelings kept popping up of, I can't keep going this way. And I ignored them and ignored them and ignored them until one day, about a couple of weeks before the Christmas break, I was late for work and rushing to work and got myself into a nice car accident. My car slid on some black ice. It went spinning, slammed into a snowbank. The whole right door of the car and the wheel came off, and I got a really lovely concussion.
Yeah. Talking about those moments where, the universe, like, literally sends you a boulder. Like,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was my boulder for sure. And so the doctor kind of checked me out and was like, you should probably take a couple weeks off work, just stay off screens and rest for 2 weeks. And it
Yeah.
was 2 weeks right before Christmas break. So it was actually going to be a month off.
Wow.
And I recovered from my injury with the full intent. I remember just being like relieved, right? I was like, oh, 2 weeks off. That sounds
Yes.
great. Right. And I recovered. It wasn't the biggest concussion of like that you could have. And so just before we were about to go back from the Christmas break in the new year, me and my husband and a couple of friends went skiing. And I fell in a really weird way. My skis didn't release from my boots when I fell. So I went one way, but my feet went the other. And I tore my knee, my ACL, my MCL, my LCL, just ripped my knee apart essentially. And yeah, and this was like 2 weeks later, right? After just
Wow.
having a concussion. Probably not the smartest thing to do after having just had a concussion to go
Sure.
skiing, but, you know,
Yeah. I mean, whatever.
25 and reckless, I guess.
Yeah.
And so HR calls me the day before we're supposed to go back to school. How are you feeling? How's your concussion? I was like, well, actually, I'm on crutches now. I tore my knee. And so they kind of went, wait a second. You just recovered from a concussion and now you're on crutches. You're now a liability to us. And so they said, we're going to give you sick leave. And they said, don't come back until there's no ice on the ground. Guys, I live in Canada. It was January. That was
Right.
5 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
They wouldn't let me back until May. They didn't let me back
My
until May.
gosh.
Yeah, so
Wow.
6 months almost, yeah, or 5 months, I guess, yeah, something like that, and I remember just being, like, so happy
Yeah.
that
Yep.
I was getting this time off because I had never been more stressed, and so my husband, like, kinda looked at me and he said, "Well, you've been saying that you don't wanna be a teacher, right? And so maybe now is the time to figure out what it is that you really do wanna do. You have all of this free
Yeah.
time, right?"
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what I did, and so part of me kind of still didn't believe that I was gonna be able to figure anything else out, and so I got kinda went, "Well, at the very least, I have to figure out how to get this anxiety on lockdown. Like, I've
Yeah.
gotta figure out how to handle this anxiety because I can't keep going this way." And so I started getting into meditation. I was bedridden anyway because I couldn't walk. And so I started going to these meditation circles in somebody's house. And it was like these women's circles, I guess. And she would teach us meditation. We would do these meditations. And that was my first taste of anything spiritual. I'd never meditated before and never learned anything spiritual. And I would go to this woman's house every week, like once a week, and go to these women's circles and learn how to meditate. And the only thing, and I kept saying to her over and over again, that I love these meditations, but I wish I could just figure out, like, if I'm not going to be a teacher, what am I going to do with my life? And she said, well, why don't you ask your spirit guides? This was a very spiritual woman.
Okay.
And I was like, my what?
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Right? Like, what is this? And she said she explained what a spirit guide was to me, right? Like the spirit who supports you, who's going to help you find your path and purpose. You know, there's apps that teach you how to do it. If you hop on Insight Timer, you can do these guided meditations and see if you can connect with it yourself. Maybe you'll get your answer. And so I was like, okay, I'm doing that.
Wow.
So I went
Cool.
home and I hopped on Insight Timer, and there's like hundreds of meditations to help you connect with your spirit guides. So I found a few that really worked for me, and I would literally spend 2 to 3 hours a day just lying there. I mean, what else was I gonna do? I
Right.
off
Yeah.
work, leg up on the
Yeah.
couch, gonna try and do this. And it took me a few months, definitely, but I did eventually connect to my spirit guides. And the only reason I wanted to do it was not because I wanted to become a psychic medium, because I wanted the answer to, if I'm not going to be a spirit guide, what am I going to do with my life? And over time, I got the answer. And
Yeah. Yep.
the answer really was that, and I'll never forget it. I mean, I definitely found a mentor along the way. It
Amazing.
was another woman that I had met at these meditation circles, and I definitely like had a few very big aha moments of like, oh my god, I connected to my guide. There was another moment where I was like, oh my god, I connected to my late grandfather, and got
Awesome.
some messages from him that there's no way I could have known, and it was confirmed by my parents. And I got deeper and deeper into this, and the more I did this, the more I realized, like, if I could do this, then I want, and how good this feels, like, I wanna share this with other people. I want other people to have this confirmation. That was what I decided I was gonna do. I was gonna dedicate myself to helping other people who were at the same crossroads and channel
Amazing.
their spirit guides. Yeah.
That is such a powerful story. Yeah. Thank God you listened to those nudges. I mean, they were big enough, like,
Oh, you couldn't miss them, could you?
yeah. Yeah. That's amazing, though. Wow. So cool. So, how soon from that moment when you really started to hone in on that skill, how long did you wait till you started offering like actual paid psychic medium sessions to people?
Yeah, so that would have been I started, it was that summer. So
Awesome. Okay.
yeah, not
Okay.
it didn't take me that long. It was that summer that I started doing it. I definitely started practicing.
Yeah.
for free on people. I would
Yeah.
there were a bunch of Facebook groups that I would reach out to people and say like, "Can I practice on you?" And I would practice with a bunch of people until I got confident enough that I felt like I could do this for pay.
Okay.
And I started very small. I didn't
Mhm.
charge a lot of money. I think I charged
Right.
$60 or something just to, continue to move forward. And once I got more confident, I raised my prices. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what I was gonna ask is, like, you're nearly everybody in the beginning when starting, like, a skill of any kind, like, for me, it was therapy, like, there's always a part of you that's lacking that confidence, but then as you get into it more and more, it's like, "No, I can do this. I have this skill." So in the beginning, obviously, you were I mean, do you feel like you had imposter syndrome? Do you feel like it took some time for you to feel like, "No, this is something people will pay me for this service." Like, did it take a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh. First of all, Stephanie, imposter syndrome never goes away.
I
Even
I
now,
getcha.
to this day, like 7 years later, I've been doing this for a living, working with many, many, many people, and I still have that fear right before I get on a session with somebody,
Okay,
right? Like
okay.
it really
Yeah.
never goes away of like, what if I suddenly can't connect, right?
Right, right.
And sometimes, you gotta just go for it with blind faith and hope it works out.
Yeah, yeah.
Did I ever question whether I could charge people money for it? I think definitely I definitely had to do some work around worthiness for sure,
Mm.
and around
Mhm.
sort of, can I charge people and how much do I charge people and would I pay that much for somebody to do
Yeah.
something like that for me? So and the best advice I can give, and this has kind of been the thing that I've been following since I started this business, was do a number that feels comfortable enough that it's not going to stress you out so much to do it with somebody, but stretchy enough that you'll be like, oh my, that when somebody does pay it that first time, you kind of go, oh my God, somebody's willing to pay me this much.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you kind of have to find that little fine line window.
Yeah.
And when you get a few people who pay the new price, you suddenly feel, okay, it's worth it.
Yep.
It's worthwhile to, there are some people who will pay this, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally agree with you on that. And
Yeah.
for me, it was like I had to work through those limiting beliefs around money and wealth to be confident in charging what I wanted to charge. But yeah, I agree. I always say, like, charge a little bit more than what you think you should be charging. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's just my personal opinion, though.
Absolutely, but not to the point where you're gonna be so stressed out, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, then it's just not worth it. Yeah. So, for listeners who this is just all new to them, like maybe the concept of spirit guides is new to them, or just like psychic mediumship in general might be new to them. What what do you tell people who maybe they buy into it, but they're just like not sure if it's for them? Like, what would you tell somebody who's like on the fence about accessing these services? I'm sure you've encountered them.
yeah. Well, I mean, I do wanna say something about the fact that if you are skeptical, I personally don't encourage skeptics to come and see me, and I'll
Yeah.
be very honest, I'm not in the business of trying to convince you,
No.
you
No,
know?
that's not. Yeah.
But I will say this, is that I think what puts some people off is there's this feeling of like, is it this thing that's outside of me that's going to know more about me than I know about myself, right?
Right. Right.
And who is this random person who's going to be able to tell me? And I think that misconception comes from what actually a spirit guide really is, because it can feel a little woo woo. It can feel a little out there, and spirit guide is just a very new age term.
Right. Right.
And I think if we can dispel that, it might be helpful. And so, what I like to say is there's kind of two definitions that I like to give to people. One is that I like to think of spirit guides as a piece of source, right? A piece of God, a piece of the universe, the divine, whatever you want to call it, that's directly assigned to you. And I very truly, strongly believe that everybody has access to God, right? We
Hmm.
all, whether you were raised in a religion or not, at some point in your life, you're going to say, oh my God, right? Like you're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
maybe pray to God, right?
Yeah.
And when you connect to your intuition, if praying is talking to God, then connecting to your intuition is God responding,
Yes.
right?
I
And God
agree.
talking back to you. And who knows you better than the
Yep.
creator of the universe, right?
Yep.
However, it can also feel very daunting to think like God can talk to me. right?
Mhm.
And what does that even mean? Like, it can almost, it's hard to conceptualize in our own head that
Yeah.
that we are talking to God. Like, who is this woman claiming she's talking to God, right?
Right.
Which
Right.
everybody can do, by the way.
Yes.
And so when we kind of bring up this term of spirit guide, we kind of think of like it's the piece of source that's directly assigned to me that I can see as, and I'm predominantly clairvoyant, so I can actually see them. Um, and it feels like this version of source that's coming through in some sort of vision, if you will. It can look like a person, it can look like a fairy. I'm sure yours looked like a mermaid, right?
Yep. Yep.
It'll come through to kind of give us something tangible to feel like we're not just talking to thin air, right? We're
Yeah.
not just talking
Yeah.
to energy or source or this thing that feels so beyond our realm of understanding. Because at the end of the day, can we really understand what God is? Not in our tiny human brains. No.
Right.
And if that explanation doesn't really feel good for you, the other side of this is that when I do something like this, your spirit guide can also be synonymous with your higher self or your, I guess, like if you think of the fact that you have a soul and your soul too is a piece of source,
Right.
right? And so
Yep.
it's this highest version of yourself, the version of yourself that is already the most aligned version that you can be. And so I'm really just tapping into that.
Right.
The highest version of yourself, the version of yourself that's free of all judgment and self doubt and subconscious beliefs and programs. And that's really what we're tapping into here. And so I think that that can kind of bring a little bit more comfort when we're talking about this. It's not really something that's so outside of yourself that we're connecting to.
Oh, I love that. That's so well explained. Like, I don't think I could have done that justice like you did, but that's so well explained. And
Thanks.
I think a lot of times, like what you're telling us, and you have alluded to this already in the episode, but it's stuff we already know intuitively, but we just get so caught up in, like, in today's world, specifically, like with social media, and where so many people live in this hustle culture. And so information overload is just a part of your life. It's coming at you in all senses and all forms. And we don't often just take the time to just slow down, go within, and listen to that inner voice, that inner knowing, that source, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. But the answers are all in there. I mean, I truly believe that our intuition is the same as the Holy Spirit. I think it's one and the same, but
Yeah.
we just don't often go within and truly listen because, and it's nobody's fault. It's not your fault as a human being. It's just, like I said, we live in this society where there's information overload constantly coming into us.
Yeah, and I definitely would argue that probably in the modern day and age, it's that much harder to
Yeah,
be connected to that version of yourself because there's just no quiet moments. And it does require a degree of presence,
it
right? And
does.
being in
Yeah.
the present moment. And as you said, like there's so many things grabbing at our attention in today's modern world that you almost now, I mean, when have you ever seen somebody walking down the street that didn't have headphones in, right?
Yeah, for real.
Right?
Yep.
Versus
Yep.
back in the day, I mean, that was pretty normal that you would walk to work, without
Yeah.
anything and just
Yeah.
and so then you're limiting the opportunities for those downloads to come in. And
Yep.
so now you have to create them.
Yeah, when I take walks without my phone or without listening to a podcast, that is when the biggest downloads come in for me because I'm out in nature. I don't have anything in my ear. Like, I'm truly grounded. I'm in my happy place. I'm with my dog. Those are when the downloads come in. And there's no coincidence. That's when we do need more unplugged walks. That's so important, I feel.
100.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. As a channeler, and I will also share for listeners, I found out through my session with you that I have this channeling ability, which I know Jessica already dispelled. Like, we all have this intuitive ability. It's not, like I said before, it's not something that, like, God, source, universe, like, picks who gets to have this ability. We all have it. It's just whether you choose to, like, really hone in on that skill or not. But before I met with Jessica, I had like nudges, or I had thoughts that, like, I definitely felt like I could plug into this higher source of some kind, but I definitely was not like fully trusting it. I was having the ear ringing. I would have these like downloads when I'd be around certain people. Like, I had no information that there's no way to explain how I knew that. And then Jessica did validate for me that, like, yeah, you can do what I do. And from that point forward, I really trusted this ability, and I would say slowly honed in on it. It's not something that I am like advertising that I do. I will tell my coaching clients that I can do it. Some of my therapy clients know, but that was so validating for me because, like I said, I was definitely like not sure what this skill or ability was that I had, but I knew it was unique and not something that everybody talks about because some people will say it's kind of woo woo and out there, but I definitely like I said, I was getting information. I'm primarily claircognizant, I believe. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm primarily claircognizant. And so, yeah, I wasn't truly trusting that skill yet. And if you are unsure of what your clairsense, am I saying
Yeah.
that right? Yeah, what
Yeah.
that is, listen to Jessica's podcast. I think it's your episode number two or three, one of those. But she goes into depth explaining what those different senses are. And if you want to know which ones are your like primary ones, I mean, I think we all have a little bit of all of them.
Mhm.
But that was really helpful for me to know, like, which of these do I really need to hone in on, or which am I already experiencing? Highly recommend listening to our podcast in general. But if you're really wanting to know, like, which of those skills you have, I would recommend listening to that episode because that was really helpful for me in the beginning. I specifically reached out to Jessica and was like, what resources can you recommend? Because I am ready to dig into this skill. I want to like really hone in on this. And I started with her podcast, and I read a couple books, got into like spirit babies before we had Augie. So just saying, if you are in the beginning stages of this, go and listen to her podcast because it can really help you to know like what your skills and abilities are primarily. That's just
Yeah,
my little
thank
plug
you
for
so
your
much. And
podcast.
shameless plug, but if you're also interested, there's a free quiz on my website that will help you.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can take the quiz and it'll tell you also.
Yeah. I think I did that too. I forgot about your quiz.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
good idea. Yeah. So I'm just curious, like as a channeler, how do you keep yourself grounded between sessions? Just what do you do for your own self-care?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have had to learn the hard knock way. That seems to be the way I do things. I
Yeah.
always have to learn the hard way. And I know when I first started doing this business, I was so excited that I would see like 3 clients a day or four, and I would
Okay.
be so exhausted and so burnt out. So now and while I do want to say that, it's so beautiful to channel these beings of light and to bring this energy through, it can also be a little bit physically exhausting
Yeah.
and tiring. And so one of the things I really do is I have a very strong boundary of I see one client a day only. And I will not see more than
Awesome.
one a day
Awesome.
because I am doing 90-minute sessions, right?
Yeah.
It can take a little bit out of me. And to ground myself, I mean, there's a couple of things that I do. I definitely use some of those like woo-woo tools like Palo Santos and
Good.
Sage, right? And I'll do those and drink water. I
Good.
always make sure to eat a really good grounding meal post session. I've learned that if I don't do that, I won't sleep that night. So definitely make
Interesting.
sure I'm eating
Okay.
really well. Because
Okay.
think about it, it's like this really light and airy energy, and it can make you kind of feel like you're high, like you feel really good, you feel
Right.
really airy, you're full of ideas, you're full of information. And it's if you think of like the Ayurvedic, doshas, right? Like you're very vata when that happens, right? And so you have to
Mm-hmm.
think like what's the anecdote to that, right? And it's to have those really warm, healing, grounding foods and kind of get into your pitta, if you will, or your what's
Yeah.
the other one? I forget
I
the last
don't You probably know better than I do.
one.
I
I
mean, if
know.
you were to
Yeah.
say it, I would know, but I'm not as well
Kapha.
versed.
That's what it is. It's Vata,
Okay.
Pitta, Kapha, right? But either way, it
Okay.
doesn't really
Okay.
matter.
Yep.
I'm not really big into the Ayurveda
Yeah.
anymore, but
Yeah.
it like you have to think of like if you're really up in your head, right? You got to do something to bring yourself down. And right, eating a
Agreed.
warm, grounding hot meal is definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
So I do that. And then, I really just try my best to take care of myself. Harder, easier said than done when I have two little toddlers running around. But
Yeah.
for me, exercise, fresh air, and nature are like the recipe for anyone's happiness. And
Agreed.
I have to make sure I incorporate those into my day every single day. I
Absolutely.
notice a significant difference. If I do not work out one day, if I don't get outside, I'm cranky.
I agree with you. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree. Are you empathic on top of like, do you take on people's energy easily?
So, yes, I think that everybody is.
I think so.
I think that some of us are better at ignoring it than
Hmm.
others, but
Hmm.
definitely very empathic. But I see that as a superpower. I don't see that as something that I need to shield myself from.
Okay.
I'm very happy to be able to tune into the energy of other people. The difference is are you going to take on that energy or are
Right.
you going to elevate the people who are feeling in a negative way and bring them down to your level or up to
I
your
love
level? And
that.
so I know unfortunately, like my husband, he does struggle with anxiety pretty intensely and he's on his own journey on how he's going to heal that. But
Same.
definitely I can sense when it's starting and
Yep.
I can choose to get caught up in the storm with him, which sometimes I'm human and I do, or
Preach
sometimes I can
though.
say, "Hey, you're safe and come join
Uh,
me over here, right?
yeah, we could do
Come
a
down
whole
over
nother
here and we can
podcast
all
on
breathe.
this.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah, because my husband's the same way, and I don't know about you, but I have to continuously affirm myself and just tell myself, like, that your healing journey is not his healing journey, and while that is really hard because I just feel I have the answers and I know what you need to do, and if you would just listen to me, but it's like, that might not be his journey, and just because that's yours does not mean you can force it on him, and that's hard as a spouse
Oh,
when you
that's
just
so hard. I
it
know.
is, and you just so deeply love them.
Yeah, I know. I always feel like I'm 10,000 steps ahead of my husband. He
Yeah.
catches up like 3 years later. I'm like, "Come
Yeah.
on, buddy, like, hurry up."
Yep.
But
I
all you can do
agree.
is be the example and
Yeah.
choose not to live in their energy, right?
Yes.
And you can't be the example if you're getting caught up in the storm. And so,
Right.
yeah, I
Boundaries.
mean, you can sense that it's happening, and that's what your superpower is. And I encourage people not to fall into the victimhood trap
Mm,
in that mentality of I'm an empath and I just feel everybody, so I have to hide in my room. No, being an
mhm.
empath is your
No.
superpower. It means that you can sense when somebody's about to get into that or is in that headspace, and you can choose to plug into it or to unplug and invite them over to your calm.
Yes. So
Yeah.
well said. And the reason I brought that up is because, you said you only do one session a day now, which kudos to you. That's such good boundaries on your part as a business owner. But as an empath, also, like I was doing 6 sessions a day in my therapy private practice, and now I'm backing off to 4, 5 if there's like a crisis meet session. But I just recognize like that's just too much. Like when I take on other people's energy, for boundaries sake, like I need to decrease those sessions in a day. It is not worth it to deplete myself mentally. And especially in like what information you are sharing with people. Like in our session, I wasn't planning on it, but you brought up the spirit baby thing because I had mentioned we're going through the fertility journey. And it's like, I'm pretty good about like controlling my emotions in the moment, but you could have a session with somebody and there could be like a full on meltdown or they could be sobbing by the end. And that's a lot of emotion that you can be like holding space for with
Mhm.
someone. And then to think like, okay, now you get out of that session, now I'm going to go into another one. Like that's not good for you, you know? So,
And I
and
mean,
you're,
there's one thing, if I can, sorry to interrupt you, that I really do love to help share, and this is something I share with my students who are developing intuitives and wanna do this, is that this this visualization piece that I really use and that's helped me so, so much is that especially when I was channeling for people and they were getting and there were these big healing moments, and I almost say my session isn't successful unless someone's brought to tears. Like, usually, we're hitting some truth if you're starting to cry.
yeah,
And so I welcome it and, like, bring on the tears, it's healing and it's
yeah,
beautiful. And I used to sit in that place with them, and I would get welled up with them, and I was like, "That's how I know I'm really, like, feeling it, and I'm channeling and I'm in it." And now what I've learned, and thank God for my beautiful mentor who taught me this visualization, she said, "You don't have to be face to face with them." She was like, "Picture yourself floating above and describing what you're channeling, but watching it from above, and you're looking down and describing what you're seeing as if you're the higher narrator." And so I no longer get myself into the place where I'm sitting face to face or shoulder to shoulder with the client. I'm up here watching from above, right? And
okay.
that doesn't mean I feel like not in an arrogant
Nope.
way,
I get
right?
exactly.
But I float myself out of it so I don't have to sit in the emotional space, right? That I can still
Yeah.
share with complete clarity what's coming through without having to be caught up in all of the emotions that are happening. And when I learned how to do that, it was a game changer for my energy, for sure.
I love that. That's something I can easily adopt, I feel.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's such great advice.
Yeah.
So, for somebody who's interested in a session with you, can you just give, like, in short, like, what a session might look or feel like?
Yeah, amazing. So when somebody does a session with me, they usually we'll start with like a guided meditation. And this
Yeah.
meditation that we do, it helps open up the channel so that your guides can come through. But I actually don't plan those meditations ahead of time. I channel the meditation directly from your guide. So the meditation is very different for every single person that comes my way.
Yeah.
And so that's always fun for me to see like what's going to come through. And so
Yeah.
it'll be some sort of nature that they really enjoy.
Right, right. Believe it or not, you guys, she took me on a beach walk for hours. Like, can you believe that? Like, if you know what you know about me, it's not a
Yeah,
surprise.
it starts as soon as we take a few deep breaths, and then I start seeing that I visualize, your safe place in nature. So I'll bring that through, and then yeah, so we'll do the little meditation until everything kind of feels grounded, and then I'll call in your spirit guides. And once we do that, I take a minute to describe your guides to you and what they look like, what they feel like, what their energy is. And then I usually will start by giving your guides a few minutes to share anything that they just need you to know. So usually my clients will come in with a series of questions and I'll discuss those with you before we hop into the meditation. What is it that you really want to ask your guides? But then there's something to be said about letting spirit tell you not the things you wanted to know, but the things you needed to hear. And so we'll do a little bit of that. And then we dive right into all of your questions and we go really deep and really specific on anything you want to know. And the world is your oyster. You can really ask anything. Most people come to me for what's my unique path and purpose in this life. And in which case, a lot of the time, spirit guides will take us into some past lives of yours. Usually, a past life will dictate some unfinished business that your soul has, and that will kind of share with us or shed some light on then what is it that you're trying to complete in this lifetime. And then they'll kind of move forward and say, like, here's your next steps, here's your business, here's what it looks like zoomed out a couple years from now. And they just give you the whole picture and every step in between.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is it true that connecting with your spirit guides, like, they won't give you information that they don't feel you're ready to receive? Because some people will say, like, "Gosh, I'm just nervous about, like, what will come through," and I've told a few clients, like, I don't know who told me this or if I heard it on someone's podcast or what, but I always reassure them by telling them, like, they aren't gonna share anything with you that you're not ready to receive yet. Is that true?
In some senses, yes. I think I'm going to add one caveat
Yeah.
to that, which is that it's nothing that your highest self isn't ready.
Yes. Okay, very well said. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Yeah, with the
Because I
ego
will
out of the way.
yes, get your ego out of the way because I will say that this happens almost weekly, which is that the guides will bring something through that maybe you didn't expect. And a lot of my clients kind of sometimes will walk away from a session going like, "That was not what I thought she was gonna say," right? Or like, "That
Yeah.
is not the business that I had envisioned for myself," right? And it feels so far away from the path you're currently walking, and sometimes it feels really out there, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, she pulled that out of her butt. Like, where did that
Yeah.
come from, right?
Yeah.
And then I get these emails from my clients, and I've been doing this for like 6 or 7 years now, and I get the email always somewhere between 6 months and 1 year later. And they emailed me like, "Our session was so insane, and I almost thought it was a waste of money." They're like, "It meant nothing to me," like, whatever. And now I'm doing that exact thing, right?
Cool.
And
Yeah.
so and I get this email, I'm telling you, I get 1 a week.
Cool.
These emails, it's so fun for me.
Yeah.
And and this is the thing is that, like, your guide is planting a seed to get you to your highest potential. So even if you're not ready to hear it, right? And some people need like a few months to even process what was said. It does make sense to them later down the road.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree. Yeah. That was another reason I decided to re-listen to our recording earlier today was because one thing that I was not expecting, I went into my session with Jessica like thinking I'm going to get all these answers for like the direction to go with my coaching business so I could really at the start of the year like launch it and feel confident and all the things, right? Well, at the start right after the meditation or sorry, the visualization slash meditation when we were just
Meditation.
beginning, yeah, Jessica had shared that there was a spirit baby in my aura. And I'm thinking, like, we're here for business reasons, you know? And Jessica had asked, like, can I go there? Like, this spirit baby is like wanting to talk. And I was like, up until the week prior to that session, I was not wanting that information. I had a session a couple weeks before it where I got asked that same question, and I was like, nope, I don't want any answers right now, but thanks. And I was ready the week of my session with Jessica. And so when she asked that, I was like, actually, now I'm ready. Like, yeah, share away, But we didn't do it till the end, but still, it's like I was finally in that place where I was open to receiving that information. And now that we have our baby, it's so crazy how the things that she shared, like the signs that I would know that he's on his way to us, so crazy. First of all, I mean, if you've listened to the adoption episode where I share the birth story and everything, you'll know how powerful that is. But just the fact that we got the news when we were on the coast, but then just the signs and the synchronicities that came while we were in LA, it matched with what Jessica had shared with me. And so there's just no way to explain that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's wild. So if you go into it truly setting your ego aside and just being open to what your higher self needs to hear, I just think you're going to do yourself a huge favor. It just in general, when you do any kind of a spiritual healing session, I always tell my clients go in open minded because then you're more likely to get more benefit out of it. I recommend spiritual healing of all kinds to my therapy clients. So I just feel try to go in with an open mind more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go and open, and even if it's even if you're scared of what's going to come through,
Yeah. Yep.
like, and even if it doesn't make sense when it does, right?
Yeah.
I always just tell my clients, just like put it in your back pocket and see if it makes sense later. And
Yep.
that's all.
Yeah. I totally agree. So before we wrap things up, is there anything business wise for you coming down the pipe? Any services that you're offering?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's two things that I'm really excited about that I launched this year that I'm really enjoying. One of the things, as I said, I absolutely love channeling for my clients, but my biggest goal in life is to render myself useless to the people that I serve because they're so good at connecting to their intuition themselves. And so that I've launched a really beautiful community called the Intuition Activation Community.
Okay.
And this is to help you connect to your own spirit guides and connect to your channeling ability and really be confident in being able to do that. I think that the biggest thing that helped me along my journey to really trust myself was being able to have people to practice with and get confirmation that what I was seeing, hearing, feeling actually made sense to somebody else. And so I wanted to create that community for you guys so you don't have to go searching for those obscure Facebook groups out on the internet with
Yeah.
people that you can trust and that are on the same journey as you. And so we have live calls once a week where I bring in a little lesson and then we practice channeling together and I help you. And I also, I'm right there channeling with you. So if there's something you're channeling, I will confirm or deny and help you kind of get through it. And we have guest speakers in there. We do a book club, and it's just a really beautiful community. We have such a great time in there. Um, and then, if you're even just slightly curious about wanting to connect with your own spirit guides, I do have a little course called Meet Your Spirit Guides that you can definitely access. And it's definitely, I kept it at a low price on purpose because I want everybody to be able to do this. And so, yeah, if you're not ready to have like a full on session, you want to just do it yourself, then I've given you all the tools and resources to be able to do that. So, yeah, you can
Yeah.
check out my Meet Your Spirit Guides course.
That's still on my like future to-do list. That's been on my to-do list since before maternity leave and I am like it's still on my to-do list. I definitely think there's a lot of power behind that course that you have to offer. So I appreciate you sharing that with listeners. Anything else that you want listeners to know before you end with rapid fire questions?
No, I mean, you're welcome to check out my podcast. It's
Yeah.
also called Intuition Activation. If you want to find me or connect with me, I'm very active on Instagram at I am Jessica Rachel. And I'm so happy to answer any of your questions, anything that you need to ask about your intuitive development journey. That's the thing, as I said, that gets me up in the morning and keeps me going. And so I'm here for you, and you can always reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have some rapid fire questions I like to end with all of
Sure.
my guests. What is your favorite way to raise your vibration?
Ooh, dance party.
I didn't know that
Part of
about
the
you. Okay.
music and just
Love
dancing
it.
out. Nothing switches your energy faster.
Oh, dancing. I love that. Okay. Is there one book that has changed your spiritual journey or influenced your
Ooh.
spiritual journey?
Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Such a life-changing book. I've read it so many times.
Really? Okay, I'm adding that to my list now.
Yeah.
Wow. Conversations with God. Okay. What is one dream that you'd like to manifest right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I'm so grateful. I feel like I have such a beautiful life right
You
now.
do. You do. Yeah.
I mean, I would be very open and happy to welcome another baby into our family.
A family of, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I get
So we
that.
have
Yep.
2
A family
boys.
of
I would
five.
be so grateful to have 1 or 2 more.
Yeah. I love that. Good. Okay. So maybe potentially hoping for that girl at some point. I mean,
I
maybe.
think so.
I
And if
love
it's
it.
not and I end up with 4 boys, I would be just as thrilled, but
Yeah.
it just our family doesn't feel quite complete yet. I need at least 1 more. So,
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah.
I love that. Is there one mantra or affirmation that you're living by right now?
Yes, this one actually came to me from my spirit guides while I was channeling my own guides, and they whacked me over the head with it. They've been telling me this for the last couple of months, and it finally clicked for me. And they were like, "Jessica, happiness isn't something you chase, it's something you choose."
It is a choice. Yep. Yep. I
It didn't
totally
click
agree.
until, like, recently, and I'm like, "You're right. I don't have to stew in this mindset. I can
No.
choose to be happy." And
Yep.
so I've been really trying to live by that lately.
Very well said. Yeah, I agree. This is the last one. What is a dream destination that you have on your vision board right now? Or if you don't have a vision board, just what's a dream destination that you'd like to visit?
Well, this is a place I've been to before, but I'm dying to take my family back to Costa Rica.
Costa
Love
Rica, yeah.
Costa Rica. Yeah, so I went there when
Good
I was a
things.
teenager with my own family. When I was in high school, my parents took us on a trip there, and I just fell in love, and I've been dying to show it to my husband and kids, and so
I
I'm
love
dying to get back there.
I've heard great things about Costa Rica, so I love
Yeah,
that for you.
thank you.
Awesome. Well, Jessica, I really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you for being one of the expanders and agreeing to come on. This has been literally on my heart since rebranding the podcast in January. And I just I knew I would know when the time was right to reach out to you and make this happen. So thank you. Thank you for just being a part of my spiritual journey. And I just know that this episode is going to be so powerful for listeners. And I'm hoping that you just get like an influx of people scheduling with you because I just know how powerful it was in my life. And I just think so many people could benefit from your services. So thank you for
You're
everything.
so sweet. Well, thank you so, so much for having me. It's really, truly been a pleasure, and I hope that we can have future discussions because this was so fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, listeners, if there's anything that really resonated with you today, feel free to DM me and you could also reach out to Jessica if you want. But more than anything, I just appreciate the ratings and the reviews and keep them coming. And I'm happy to do a shout out in a future episode if you do leave a rating or a review. But I just appreciate all the support, you guys, truly from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for continuing to listen. And until next time, I will talk to you guys next week.